Welcome to Around Town, featuring what's happening here in the greater Concord area. I'm your host, Dick Patten. It's a pleasure to welcome you back on this hot summer day as we are finally going to say goodbye to July and welcome August coming in. And of course, as you know, the Patriots have opened up training camp, and the Red Sox, well, I don't know if they're going to do that flopperoo or not, but I'm more interested in the Michigan Wolverines, and they're starting to camp also here in another week or so. So looks like football's on the horizon, but as it is right now, we're still in 'tis the season, and that's the election season. So with me today, I'm very happy to have one of my cohorts in the State House, State Representative David Luneau, with me as a guest. And David is really has the best of both worlds. In a way, I hate to say it, because he is an undeclared representative. I know they say independent, but when you go in the voting booth, you have to say either Republican, Democrat, or undeclared. So, is that what you're basically listed, or is it independent?
Well, great to be with you here this afternoon, Dick, and thanks very much for the invitation this afternoon. So yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. And no, actually, I was elected 2 years ago as an independent.
Okay.
And there's a long story behind that, and we got 27 minutes here, so I don't mind sharing the brief version of that. But basically, I was asked to get involved by a current and a former state representative who asked if I would put my name in on the Democratic ballot, and it was during the filing season 2 years ago. But like so many people in the state of New Hampshire, what I had at the time typically done, obviously not thinking of running for public office, although I am on the Hopkinton School Board, a nonpartisan position, but I had always voted in Democratic primaries, and then would get back in line again and return my voter status to undeclared. And when you do that, you actually cannot run in a primary if your voter status is undeclared.
That's right too, yes.
You have to sign in a test that that you're a member of the party that you intend to run in.
Sure.
So at that point, and I think some people that may be watching this in Hopkinton in the western part of Concord might remember this. We ran a very aggressive write-in campaign during the Democratic primary. Of course, all the names on the ballot were already taken, so usually in a write-in campaign, you have 35 names, and that's 35 votes, and that's enough to do it. We got close to 500 votes, but it wasn't enough to overcome, the full slate that was in there. So I had at the time I filed. I did file to run as an independent candidate as well, and collected the 200-ish signatures that you need to have in order to make that happen, and that way I could have my name guaranteed to be on the November ballot.
First, though, I think we need to clarify. David represents he represents Ward 5 of Concord along with Hopkinton. When they did the redistricting a few years ago, Concord's Ward 5 that Mary Jane Wallner represents, as from the State House, was combined with Hopkinton.
Correct.
And I don't know, do you have other reps out there too? Is it, because it's just you, right? No.
So no, there's three of us in that district. So the district is Merrimack County District 10, which as you say, Dick, is Hopkinton and Ward 5 from Concord.
All right.
And there are three representatives as part of that district. Representative Wallner from Concord, Representative Mel Myler from Hopkinton, and myself.
Yes. That's right, because
and,
the attorney didn't run again. I can't remember his name. Didn't run again.
Gary Richardson.
That's it.
Good friend of mine.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, elected as an independent, caucused with the Democrats, and on January 1st, I did change my official party affiliation in the State House. Probably wasn't reflected in the Blue Book. From independent to Democrat, and I'm running as a Democrat. For re-election, both in the primary and November.
So some of the issues that we're going to be facing this coming year, if we get reelected in there. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if the Democrats retake the House. They lost it 2 years ago to the Republicans. If then, what can we expect? Are we going to be able to get through some things that got defeated the last 2 years? You think like passenger rail service, maybe that's going to come back, we can get that in, or the casino voting. I mean, I think, different things that got knocked out. Are we going to get them back in again, or what's going to happen?
Right. No, I think you're absolutely right, Dick. I think we'll be taking a look at legislation that was defeated by the Republicans during the last 2 years, and fortunately, I think a lot of very important Democratic priorities did pass.
Yeah.
And I think it was through the good work that we had with our Democratic leader, Representative Shurtleff, who I certainly hope that we retake the majority, and he would be the speaker. But Representative Shurtleff, along with I think a number of us in the Democratic Party, worked very well with others in terms of coalition building, whether it was one group of a fractured Republican Party or another group of a fractured Republican Party, and that was very important in order for us to pass any legislation. So of those very key pieces that passed in New Hampshire, health protection plan, which is Medicaid expansion, passed by the thinnest of margins. In fact, it was one vote.
It was
cast by the speaker that allowed that to go through without bad amendments attached to it, and that was very important, particularly as a minority party, to be able to get that key piece of legislation through. But other things that we were not able to get through this year, for instance, one I think that's very important for Hopkinton and hopefully soon for Concord, would be full adequacy for full-day kindergarten students. Right now, kindergarten students, whether they attend a half-day program or a full-day program, only receive half of the adequacy dollars that a first grader or a 12th grader would receive, because kindergarten kids only count as half a student. Even I know they're pretty short and they don't eat as much, but they should get the full if they're attending full-day program.
I know when I went to school, I was in kindergarten here in Concord, and it was a half a day. The first half of the year, you went in the morning session. Then in January, you swapped, did the afternoon session. It was kind of crazy. Yeah.
And that's how it was when I grew up as well. And I grew up in Hopkinton. We had half-day kindergarten, but times have changed, and public schools are certainly different than they were back when we were growing up. And I think the demands on education and on society are obviously different as as times change, and as how we look at education and learning. Number of communities throughout the state have embraced full-day programs. In fact, it's almost two-thirds of the school districts in the state have full-day programs, and that number actually jumps up to 80% of the schools when you take a look at the communities with the lowest median household income. So our states, our communities that struggle the most have embraced even more than others, because they know how important early childhood education is.
Maybe you can clear up a little bit of confusion that I get a lot here, and I hear it in the State House too. The charter schools. Do you consider them a private school or a public school?
No, I consider charter schools to be a public
a
public school, and I think it's important to realize that I think there's a place for charter schools in New Hampshire. That place, however, shouldn't be to erode financial support for non-chartered public schools, so traditional public schools, such as the Concord School District or the Hopkinton School District. And when charter schools pull resources away from those schools, I don't think it creates a good situation for public education in general. But when you see charter schools coming online that offer certain programs that are not available in public schools, whether it's a focus on the arts or focus on math and science, I think they're bringing something to the table.
Because if I remember right, I know one rep that sits near me was saying that he didn't feel they were public because they're governed by their own board of directors. He said they're not, we don't have a say in their stuff because they're private to him because they have their own board. And I said, well, that's different. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah, that's certainly that's certainly
I don't know. And they pay a tuition, right?
No.
The charter schools don't provide tuition?
No, they're supported by they do receive funding from the state for every student that attends.
Okay.
They can receive private funds from from corporations that that currently can deduct those. I believe can deduct those contributions from their business profits tax. And there may be limitations on that, and I don't agree with that, because that now that's clearly something that's channeling dollars to one organization at the cost of the state. When it comes from otherwise, which would be general tax dollars. But they do have some tracking through the Department of Education, and there was a bill just this past year to seek to add a position at the Department of Education to basically help support the work done at charter schools.
Now, looking ahead to this year, have you thought of any possible bills you might want to file? Because we can start filing bills as incumbents. Was it 1st of September, right?
Correct. Yeah, early September.
Have you thought of something you want to file?
Yeah,
a couple of bills?
Yeah. So I did have I filed 6 bills this past year, and 2 of them made their way and were signed by the governor, and 4 of them fell to the wayside. I think largely in our Republican-controlled House. But they were bipartisan bills, and I think very good bills. Some of them, fell on partisan lines, but shouldn't have. One of them being the full adequacy for full-day kindergarten. So we'll be looking to move that forward as a majority party. But we'll also be looking to move forward some legislation that will essentially allow insured patients to actually have predictability in their health insurance co-pays, not only when it comes to prescription medication, but also when it comes to medical procedures.
Sure.
And a lot of people don't realize that that there are practices that are allowed in New Hampshire's insurance rules right now, and allowed in state statute, where an insured patient, let's say you have your health insurance through Anthem, you walk through the front door at Concord Hospital for a procedure. Maybe it's an ACL replacement or something like that, and you think it's going to be covered by insurance, and it may be that the doctor that performs the surgery is covered, but perhaps the anesthesiologist got substituted out at the last minute, and they're not part of the Anthem plan, and you may be hit by with a several $1,000 anesthesia cost for something that otherwise you fully expected to be covered by insurance. So we'll be looking to close that loophole, and and do it in a way that that protects consumers. Other things I think we'll be looking at this year too is to allow is to really eliminate the exception of federally chartered banks from our banking laws.
Yeah.
And right now, federally chartered banks do not fall under the Consumer Protection Act. If you've got an issue with a big bank, you basically have to take it to Washington. There's nothing you can do about it here in the state of New Hampshire. Unlike our state banks, which fall under the banking commission, banking department.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking at doing some work there. Those are some of the big ones that I'll be looking at directly, and working very closely with our senator from Senate District 15, Dan Feltus.
Yes.
Who obviously serves the people here in Concord, but also Hopkinton, Henniker, and Warner. Some areas that I've co-sponsored where he's been prime are to take a look at some of our tax laws and really make sure that we're closing some of these loopholes that are sweetheart deals for really not the majority of New Hampshire residents, and these can be things like allowing large corporations to leave their profits overseas and avoid New Hampshire business profits tax as well as federal corporate taxes, and that's a big one right there, but also taking a look at things like capital gains. I mean, we tax other corporate forms of earnings, whether it's interest or, but we don't tax capital gains. So taking a look at that could together bring in over $100 million a year in revenues to the state, which would go a long way to restoring some of the revenue sharing, which was taken away back in 2011, revenue sharing with municipalities and school districts, and that would go a long ways towards providing meaningful property tax relief.
I know that I'm happy that they finally agreed to give the Capitol Security Force guns down there, or weapons to protect everybody, because I always thought that they were sitting ducks, as all of us were. So I'm glad to see that happen. It's coming here. I know they're in training, I think, now, or they should be done by now, but I was glad to see that. But I'm also watching the way they work with handicap or disability people as well, and especially some of the us reps. I feel that some of us got a real bum rap we did with the seating and everything in that state house, and they don't care. I'm sorry, but they just don't seem to take into effect that some of us just aren't able to do things because of our disabilities.
Right.
And then you get the answer, well, that's it. One thing that bothered me in particular was the fact that the way those seats are assigned, because there were two seats up back that, one of them was the one I had 2 years ago, and it was good. But this last term, it was a Republican seat. So I asked about getting a seat change, like a lot of others did. And we get told, that's a Republican seat, you can't have that. Well, and they're both the ones that were sitting there were very fine. Nothing wrong with them at all. It's just, so that's what I'm watching. I'm tempted to, I don't know if it would go very far or not, but I'm tempted to file a bill about that seating, to have a good hard look at it. And, because it does bother me. I mean, some of us would like to do more, but we can't because of where our disability is.
Yeah, I think that's important, Dick, and I would support your your initiative to do that. I've got a business history of I started a tech company about 20 years ago, and the emphasis on our product development and manufacturing was to design products for basically incorporating what are called universal design principles. So making sure that these products are useful and usable by people with varying degrees of ability,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and including limited eyesight, limited mobility, and because it's important, and it's important not only for people that have limitations in their ability to be able to access things, but
Yeah.
that accessibility actually makes it overall better for everybody.
Sure.
Makes products easier to use.
Sure.
Makes products lower in cost.
Yeah.
So I think the more we can do in that area.
How did you feel about the Planned Parenthood vote that the Executive Council did?
You mean the second time around?
Yeah,
I'm very glad it came through second time around, and you know, and I credit Councillor Van Oostern for having kept his eye on that, for the opportunity to bring that up again. I think it's very important that we have you know, high quality you know, healthcare for you know, for everybody in our society, but particularly Planned Parenthood providing the vital services that are not being provided.
See, the problem that I had, David, was because being a member of the Catholic faith, because I was always led to believe that that money that you donate went to that, they did something like with abortions or selling off baby parts or whatever. And I thought, oh, I'm not giving to that. But then I was assured by a couple of the counselors that in fact was not true. That money that was given to them was not going for abortion.
That's correct.
And I
That's
said,
correct.
if that's the case,
Mhm.
okay. But this idea of, you know, this and that, it's like, this is not, you know, of course, when we hear it from the church here, the bishop is always sending letters out to us about how we're voting on things. And,
Mhm.
you know, I have to say that I really had to be careful on that one, because that was a different ball game there.
Well, you know, it's
Right.
you know, as you and I both know, there's you know, there's a handful of issues that go through the legislature that are very
Oh, yeah.
emotional and
They
lightning
are.
rod
Yeah.
issues, and you know, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
But you know, my understanding, I think, is the same as what you laid out with respect to Planned Parenthood, that that money is not used for abortion,
I know.
but is used to really help the you know, provide other
That's right.
healthcare services for
Exactly.
women throughout the state that can't afford that,
That's right,
or,
yeah,
or have
exactly.
access to.
Yeah, it's true.
So
Yeah.
you know, we want our people to be healthy.
Exactly, exactly. And it is sad, because those people that, if they're not in, like I said, if they're not in that system, they get no help or nothing, and where do they go?
Mhm.
What do they do?
Right.
You know, and now, your choice, if we had to come down to income tax, sales tax, any stand on that at all?
You know, if the choice were to come down to an income tax or a sales tax, so you know, so we got to pick one or the other, I would choose an income tax
Really?
over that, because you know, a sales tax does have a sort of an regressive component to it that you know, whether you make a little bit of money or gobs and gobs of money, there are certain things that everybody still has to buy. You know,
Sure.
you know, whether it's going to Walmart or going to Best
Yeah.
Buy and things like that. So,
Mm.
so it you know, it's not something that spreads the load. You know,
Yeah.
you know, fairly
Sure.
across you know, all segments of society. So so I would go with that.
And also, too, of course, coming up, we're thinking about the coming year, because this thing with guns continues to be a big thing, and these assault rifles and everything else. I mean, I don't know. It just really. I heard once that they thought about dropping the capital punishment bill here, not bill, but the capital punishment crime. You know, for those in the prison who are on death row.
Mm-hmm.
They thought about entering a bill there to stop all capital.
Stop capital punishment.
Yeah, stop capital punishment. But we didn't get that this time.
I don't recall
but
seeing
there were a
that.
lot of rumors coming up that we were going to get asked to vote on that, but
Mhm.
I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I don't know if that's in the works.
With the prisons and stuff getting full and all that, I don't know where they're going to go with it. Concord, was it New Hampshire hasn't done one, I don't think, in what, 70, 80 years.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been a while.
Right, but but I think there is quite a bit of work being done in the state, though, to really take a look at the criminal code, and I think we did some work this year in terms of decrimming small amounts of cannabis for personal use, and setting that up as a violation as opposed to a misdemeanor, and and that does provide, I think, some relief on the criminal justice system, for what otherwise are nonviolent type offenses. But I think more than that, though, really working with our county jail superintendent, county corrections superintendent, Ross Cunningham, and I think has a very enlightened approach to community corrections, and when you take a look at the fact that close to 94–95% of people coming through the front door have either some combination of mental health or substance use disorder, that providing a community correction type facility and with the essentially renovation of our former
I'm
county
glad
lockup.
that went through.
Right, and
Glad that went
turning that into a treatment and recovery facility.
That's a good thing.
Will take some pressure off of,
yes.
of what otherwise should be used for more violent.
That was a good thing, boy. I know that I was there that day, but of course they delayed the vote, so I had an appointment to go, but I was glad that did pass. Well, why not? The building's there, do something with it.
Yep.
You know? Because that's another, people don't realize that we have two roles. We have the state government role, and we also be a county delegation role.
Right.
So we have to look at also the county delegation, county budgets and things, and what's going on with the nursing home, the jail, the sheriff's department, county attorney, and all that's up
and
there.
there's a lot of work on the county side too, for our Merrimack County delegation, and we've got 3 very significant facility projects underway right now. Probably the one that's best known by people is the new Superior Court, that will be built in downtown Concord, right behind our current Superior, our beautiful Superior Court. And but our current facility is really outmoded. It doesn't have the space and storage and capacity that the judicial branch needs right now. A number of years in the making, but finally it's come through and it will take place in downtown Concord. So that's one big project. The other project, the Community Corrections Project that we talked about in Boscawen, and then as I think many people have come to learn recently, that Concord Steam is going to be winding down in 2017. And so our county buildings that are on Steam are going to be moved off that, and we at the same time we voted on the community corrections, we voted on the energy improvements contract as well. So I'm chairing actually a delegation subcommittee that to monitor and track our facility projects. So working very closely with the commissioners and with Administrator Marrow.
Oh, great. Well, we've come to a close of around town, David. One last one. I wish they'd bring the cows back to the farm up. Open that county farm up there with the animals. But anyway, well, we've been talking with David Luneau there, who is a state rep from Hopkinton and Ward 5 of Concord, and he hopes that when you go to the polls, that you certainly will cast your ballot to re-elect him to the House, and hopefully we'll see him in January and see what role he goes into.
Great.
And so, hey, who knows?
Great.
You could be minor speaker there. Not minor speaker, but you could be a chairman of a committee, or who knows? You
Who
know,
knows?
so, yeah,
Who knows?
So,
But
with that in mind, thanks to my director, Ian, and with that, you have a great day, great weekend, and I'm your host, Dick Patten, for Around Town.